Howdy, everyone. This is Tyler Coates with alphanalysis.io here on an exciting day for Bitcoin. Anyway, for the volatility, the price has been moving and a shaking. So it'll be exciting to take a look at some charts here today. We'll be taking a glance at the chat to make sure that the sound is working, as I got pretty far into another show without it. So how's it going, Febo? Good to see you. Charlie Sheen, probably not Paul, Crypto G, Os K, Brandon, shout out to you guys. And as long as I see a bunch of complaints about the no sound, I guess I'll just assume that it is working. So we'll plan on having a relatively quick show today, as the market is moving fast. I'm going to be wanting to get back and making sure that I'm executing properly. It is bouncing right now to 58.8, and I am having some sell orders set from 55 up to 57.4 to sell some spots. So I am hoping that those get filled, and maybe while this show is streaming, and then I'll have to be paying close attention to see what happens from there. When we get a big move down like this, that is been a lot what I'd consider an abnormal move down, definitely what could be considered a dip in a bull trend, but a much bigger, sharper one than we've seen recently. And even even on all of the recent ones, for the most part, when you get that first major sell-off, the first bounce, I really think is a good spot to look to sell and see how it reacts from there. It will generally like to kind of retest some support levels if it just kind of blows right through, and if it has some strong signs from there, then that would be something I'd be wanting to pay very close attention to. Whereas after how much we have moved, and how far this market has moved in the last year, and how much profit I'm looking at myself, it's unrealized, and not only in the trading account but also in my longer term portfolio. This is a spot where I am really interested in capitalizing on some profit, and if I happen to then miss out on some move to the upside with that portion of my account, then that is quite all right. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a good time to look at rebalancing. Think about when you got into think about what your portfolio looked like at the beginning of the year, how much of your net worth was in Bitcoin versus other assets, and that was probably something, an allocation that was well thought out, that you were comfortable with, hopefully. And when an asset moves 10x in the matter of a year, well, that's going to affect the allocation, such that if you did have, say, 20-30% of your portfolio allocated to Bitcoin, now maybe you got 40 or 60 or 70%, depending on where you got in and how much of the move you were in for. Whatever percentage of your portfolio was allocated to Bitcoin or crypto has probably really inflated relative to the rest of your assets. And in my opinion, that's a time to not get too greedy, to be happy with what has happened so far, and to hope for much more, but to also just kind of take a step back, take a deep breath. And this morning, I've been doing a bunch of accounting and going through all of my portfolios and investments, and the percentages that I have, and very much realizing that this is a good time to look at reallocating. And I think that can be a tricky thing in today's environment, when there aren't too many things that are attractive. And of course, this is not financial advice. This is just, I'm talking through what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing. And if that is, something that makes sense to you, where I'm looking personally is basically some land. I really think that land is a good spot to put some money into. I think land is very undervalued, specifically if there are low interest rate loans available with significant down payments. So this is kind of what's going through my mind, and I want to try to really be careful in this current environment where there's some extreme volatility and there may be some prices that aren't on the table for very long. And it's, for me personally, time to be decisive, as I have been doing my best to hold through this trend, and then to manage risk when we get into a bit of a more risky situation, and then just try to go from there the best that I can. So we will go ahead and dive into some charts, get myself a drink. And one thing concerning me about this run up right now is that we're still seeing a very significant premium in the futures, and that is something that I would very much like to see disappear after a sell-off like that. And now that we're working on moving back up, if that continues to build and we continue to see these big funding rates, that's where I look at sort of some local highs as being really good spots to sell, and it being tough to get through that area without at least some further consolidation or something along those lines. And I'll share a couple a couple of indicators that I'm starting to rely on myself, and I'll be paying attention to, one of which you guys can pay attention to, one of which I feel like will only apply to those maybe that have been around for a little bit. So the first thing that I've started to notice that has preceded the last two big sell-offs is people talking about Bitcoin being sold out, and that there's no more Bitcoin left for sale. Once we start hearing that, next time we start hearing that, I think that's going to be a pretty darn good sell signal. And the other signal for me that I've been paying really close attention to is the friends and family that have been getting into Bitcoin for the first time over the last year or so. On the major sell-offs, where they get real scared, they get texts from a handful of people, what's happening here, what's going on, what's happening. And that's something that has been pretty darn repeatable over the last couple of ones that didn't happen today. So I don't know, that's totally subjective, and I'm certainly not telling anybody out there to base anything off of it, but I will say that if I got some of those texts today, that I would be feeling a lot more bullish right now. So that's just so be it. Okie dokie, let's go ahead and get into some charts. I'm setting up the process here. All right, go ahead and share the screen. And take a look at the coin. I will be publishing this indicator here with these moving averages this week is my plan. We really focused on the back tester. We had a bug come up, and now that has been updated. So back tester is now back to what we expect functioning. We told everybody to hold off on using it until that bug we had found is updated, and now that is the case, but there's still Still very early days, so could be more bugs right around the corner. Just so that everybody is aware, let's go ahead and make this one a different color. Okay. So go ahead and throw it on the base. This will adjust if you create a new low. Like back here, when we didn't create a new low, it would have stayed where it was. But when you create a new low, now that will adjust as it's a 2-period low moving average using the low of this candle and the low of this candle, giving us a average of 51,469. Resistance now, this is where I will pay very close attention to see if we close above or below the 9 least square mean. I would expect a close below. We've got an hour and 40 minutes. That is at 55,859. So for now, that's resistance, as long as we're below it. But if we close above it, that will be support. Stops is taken out across the board. Let that take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles lows. So yeah, I mean that's definitely a lot of stops wiped there. This would be the new 100. And emasar is holding bullish on the 1 hour as well as the 4 hour. And this is where I'm looking for a strong area of resistance. Will be from the sky as it is now trending down. That is where I'm going to be looking to sell right now around 58, 57.9. And it's going to have to prove to me that it can, get through that area. Let's kind of take a look back at the last time we saw something like this. Would have been right in here, where this is the 4 hour. You come down near the beach, and then that first run up, it does eventually move higher, but it takes some time to work its way through that downward angled sky. The first one, as it approached these highs, that's, kind of in my mind what I'm seeing, and that, maybe we even do some sort of like ascending triangle that holds and takes off from there. Like there's a lot of things that can happen. Maybe we just take off straight through, but that is the least likely for me. I think that will, in my opinion, be looking to, if it can break through this 50 and get up to the sky on this kind of move here in the next day or so, next 24 hours, then I would be expecting it to at least come back and revisit the beach before going any higher. And based on what we're seeing with the premium in the futures, not disappearing and still staying above, well above what I would like to see in that, I would be, not nearly as, in a position to enter a lot of risk based on the risk slider here. So let's go ahead and just continue working on through. This will be very interesting to see what happens here. I don't think that I got in at order at 55, and high on my oh, computer's not working. What are you gonna do? I'm assuming that I just barely missed that fill. We'll have to see. This is why I need to get back to it. Okay, that is high on my 55.027. Okay, good. I got a little fill. And Sky on the 1 hour, 58.024. 49.281. Underworld 47.280. So tried to get down to the beach, but that was a significant front run. Definitely be a signal of strength. The weekly candle, I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen that would be very, very bullish from here. I just need to see it. I'm not gonna. I need to wait to see it to happen before I am willing to bet on it. Yeah, 39.212. An incoming storm on emasar. That's going to be coming in very soon, and that's after the most profitable signal that we have had in years, which to me is when you get a really profitable signal and then you get a signal of exhaustion. That's something that I just really jump on personally. 36.580. Just to pull up, it worked its way through this storm. We got our signal here to long, and then this storm appeared, and I talked about it thoroughly that I thought we were going to be able to break through, and when you continue a storm, it's a sign of a continuation. I talked about that a lot in the Telegram group. And here I wasn't worried about the storm because we already got such a deep correction into the ocean to test the buoy and reverse the moving average crossover and really, really test these levels to get, to me, that was enough to say that we, got the correction that made me not really worried about that storm. Whereas here, now that we've gotten one and we've gotten a continuation, if we get another continuation, it would be a really, really big deal. But did that just, it's hard to tell, it's going to come in here soon. So this is much different. If we get a storm in here below these local highs, then that local high becomes a very important area for me, that the storm continuation, you have to take out the local highs. So this is what I'm going to be paying very close attention to, and very much thinking that this is in a spot that we could see a much more significant correction. We had 19% there, and yeah, this is a tough time to do a show because it's a spot where a lot can happen, and I think it's very, very important to just be on your toes and be in ready position. And what I've really noticed on days like today, I'll get into my trade from yesterday and talk about that. But what I've really noticed when wake up to these big moves with a bunch of volatility, and you're seeing weird stuff in the news from Elon Musk or coin transfers to exchanges or whatever the case may be, the hardest thing is just to do nothing. And that is the thing to do until you feel like you have a good setup. So for me this morning, it was hours of just, trying to do my best to sit on my hands and to be patient and to go through, risk calculations and this sort of stuff. And, just kind of wait until I could feel the waters cool down in myself. If you see my shirt here, we've got the astronaut on the one side, but the other side is the scuba diver. So that's me today, the scuba diver. So I just think that it's really, really important to just during a time like this, for me especially, is to be able to admit that when you're not confident about the direction. When the market's really, moving and trending hard and going in your favor, and you're getting good fills and you're on the right side of the market, you're really, kind of getting in the zone, that's a time to, really press it and try your best not to get greedy or cocky or overconfident. And then the times where you get caught off guard, you get stopped out, and a price, you get stopped out here, and then price moves again, keeps, say you're long, and then you get stopped out, and then the price goes up, and now you're not knowing what to do. Do I buy back in? Should I not set that stop there? All these thoughts go through your mind. And when you're really, swimming in these emotions and in these thoughts, the best thing to do is just do nothing. Just take a deep breath and, go for a walk and, recognize and start to figure out the levels that are going to be, really critical for you, and start to, set some alerts, or, start to develop some sort of game plan of, if we can do this, well, then I'll be ready to do this. If we can do that, well, then I'll be ready to do that. So this is a time where I think I've gotten pretty good at, just staying calm and being patient and doing nothing when I know that there's nothing on the table. And then when there is something on the table, I'm ready to pull the trigger. So as I'm going through these charts and as I'm talking, it's like there's a lot of things that could make me very bullish in a couple of days. But I am, if we, bounce enough here in these next few hours, then it's a good setup for me to go ahead and sell. And that is for a few reasons. We'll just go ahead and take a look at another chart here. So this is a very bullish start to a candle, this weekly candle. I mean, this is, if we close this weekly above 58.5, then it will be very hard for me to believe that we're not going significantly higher. This weekly close is very, very important to already come down and test the last week's lows one day into the candle, get the sharp reaction off of it. This is where, like something like this could happen, like this candle here. Even if we don't close it green, if we just close it up near the top, that would be very, very bullish. But until then, I'm going to be very interested to see what happens at the open. And that's where I'm going to be setting some sell orders. Open of this candle, 57,485. And let's see here, go ahead and pull up the moving averages for the weekly. I might be getting ahead of myself a little bit here. So here we see the 2-week high MA is 57,959, and that would be the area of resistance, but I will be front running that just a little bit, looking for sell this week's highs, as well as that yesterday's low. So here is where I think it's going to be a a good spot to sell like today or tomorrow. And if in the next couple of days we just get above this high and spend a few days up in here, then I will be more than happy to just buy back, you know, even at 60, because what I'm used to, you know, too often you get something like this where it sure looks like we're going to get this bullish candle, but then, you know, these highs just hold as very strong resistance, at least for a little bit, and there generally isn't much of a window to sell there, which gives a couple implications. It means that there's a tight time and price stop, and that's really what I focus on, is that if we get up here and I can enter and I can sell, I'm not shorting, I apologies if I misspoke, if I can sell and take profit on spot up in here, then I can, if for just 2 or 3 days it's hanging up here too long, you know, something, you know, if it doesn't get that sharp reaction and it spends too much time up in here, well, now I can just start buying back, even if it hasn't gone too far. So if it goes too far, I can start buying back. But if it just spends too much time up around this area is when I can, you know, look to, you know, get some good signals from the daily and whatnot. Like right here, for this thing to move back up here, that's going to take some time generally, and therefore this is where I'm targeting to sell the 2-day high and the 2-week high. And if we can take out those areas, if we just blow right through them, then everything changes for me. And if it just spends too much time up there, then things change for me as well. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, this bounce here is an opportunity to sell and then reevaluate. Okie dokie. So, support 16657. This has gotten me very, very interested. This 4-hour buy signal coming in is definitely a bullish spot, but it is breaking down the bull zone on the ESI. So it'll be interesting to see if this ESI can reclaim this area and we get a strong bounce off of this. I definitely think that this bounce is a sell, but this is the zone. It's not quite there where I'm really interested in it yet. And this guy has me being careful. Checking the premium and futures here. I think it's resetting. 15 hours it is. this was just back down to 3 or 4. Feel so much better about things. Continue higher. Let's take a look here. Stop that. That. All right. Let's see here. Hedge, but I'm looking to take profit from it. I was ready to leave the max on the table. I'm back in here now. I'm looking to scale out and take more profit off of the table. This going to be basically looking to cut that down to 40% of my account. Let's see. This a little backwards from how we've been doing it, as I'm looking to decrease here opposed to increase. Right, so there it is. Not loving this reaction, but I still feel comfortable that we've got some room left in this bounce, and this is definitely a price that I will be looking to take some profit on. And I would be like, what I probably want to do more than anything else is just buy back in higher. If we're able to just mash through this local high, then that would be a much better opportunity to have risk to the long side for me than when we're right here. So for me, it's not, about trying to buy the lowest price and sell the highest price. It is about, trying to get myself into really good situations, which I missed a really good one yesterday because I just totally botched it. And we'll go through that very quickly here. I was, if you want to see, you'll have to go back to the episode yesterday to see where I was. I think I was already filled basically on, I was fully exposed to the risk that I wanted. I had like 2% risk on buy-in, entering in. Probably like around here on average or so, and had stops would have been like 55, like right here, and got stopped out of that today. So got stopped out, down around in here, and took a loss there, and also took a loss on some alt positions that probably totaled to about 10% of the account, and it could have been a lot worse. There was some really nasty slippage that I was fortunately didn't get hit too bad with. I did get some kind of ugly fills, but it could have been a lot worse. And that's a spot where I'm you just gotta expect that type of thing, and really take it all in perspective. Like my, I'm up like over 300% over the last year or so, and on that move in Bitcoin, and having a significant loss definitely stings, but it's just what you just you got to be happy with the the money that was able to be made, and then you got to be careful with what is still left on the table. And what I have, what I really try to do my best at is just pushing the trend as hard as I can. And when it's moving and it's trending hard, I just want to keep betting on that, keep betting on that, keep betting on that. And then as soon as some things, I start to see some cracks, and price moves to where I don't think it should, based on where I'm setting my stop losses and whatnot. That's where I've really learned that it's, important to be sure to, just be very careful, because the dips that are the ones that are the best to buy are going to be the hardest to buy, and the ones that that you really want to buy are often going to be the ones that don't end up working out too well. So that's where I am at first, just when I'm looking at everything and processing everything that just happened. At first, I just want to make sure that I'm doing my best to think clearly and not make any rash decisions, and like trying to just jump back in and be upset about the lack of the not having the exposure that I had and taking the loss that I took. That's when I make really bad decisions. When I try to I wouldn't even call it revenge trading necessarily. It's more like just making too many quick decisions after getting stopped out. When stops occur, and to me, it's that kind of first sign that, okay, now things are different than they were in the prior weeks or months, and now it's a spot where I want to be very careful about being over anxious about buying back in, and I want to be taking a very close look at my longer term exposure, because I again will do my best to hold through as long as I can, no matter how much I want to sell based on how much profit I'm up. But then once it gets too hard to take some profit, that's when I've realized that I need to be doing my best to do so. And I think that these levels are going to be prices that I'm just very happy to take profit at. And if the market continues going higher, I also don't want to be over anxious on buying back in, because this type of move can often lead to multi-month corrections that really what makes it so hard to consistently make money in these markets is if you capture a nice move like this on the upside, and then it turns around, and for 3 months it goes down to where every dip becomes not a good buying opportunity, and then you lose all the money back that you made. So after big moves, I think it's just very important to focus on managing risk as much as possible, including the unrealized profit that may be on the table, because it'll just help you think a lot clearer when you know that there is all of this unrealized profit on the table, and you take none. It's for me a lot more anxious than when I just take like 5%, when I just take a little bit, and then just taking just a little action helps me to get out of that, like that you can get yourself in a paralyzed state as well. So hopefully that makes some sense as I'm talking along about acting too quickly, and then also getting too paralyzed when you had a plan and you're ready to execute it, and you then the market just does this stuff so quickly that it can be very hard to act, and that is going to be just all part of this. So I think during days like this, it's very, very important to just pay close attention to how you're feeling, and notice if there is anything that you could be doing better, anything that you could be learning from. I definitely had my notes out today and was had a learning experience here myself, as in yesterday's show I had outlined, let's see here, this as being a really good area to buy based on the 2 low moving average and the 9 LSM on the weekly chart. And that was, very much a spot where I said, this is where I'd be very interested in buying. And I didn't get to buy any of that because I was fully risked on the lower time frame. So using the daily entry, I had entered fully, and generally what I like to do is leave a little bit available for that higher time frame entry. So instead of, say, risking 2% up in here, risking 1% here, and 1% down in here is generally going to be a much more effective approach. And it was a spot where I was feeling really really good about the about buying below that day's low and in this area of support, such that I wasn't really thinking we were just going to move so sharply down into last week's low like that. So that left me really looking at the charts this morning and asking myself, what happened? Why did I not have any orders there? And instead of getting some nice, nice safe exposure, like if you're able to buy around that, below 50, then that's a pretty darn safe spot at the moment relative to buying up here. And instead of getting that, getting a piece of that, I was stopped out on that buy on the daily, up above 50,000. So, that's a spot where I've got to pay close attention. That's definitely something I'll be tucking into the back of my mind and remembering for the next time. And each time we get one of these, really kind of unexpected, sharp moves. I mean, that thing moved very quickly in a short amount of time while I was sleeping, and that will generally be a good learning opportunity. Unless you absolutely nail it, then you should be looking at why didn't you? And as long as you are continuing to challenge yourself to evolve, both with how you approach trading and how you manage your emotions, and continue to persistently put risk management first, then I think it will, come together more and more over time, and that we should, no matter how much that is the case, we should always continue to be students and continue to be challenging ourselves to make sure, even if you did get a really good entry, did you get the right risk? Was it too little? Was it too much? Was it just the right amount? There's only a few things that, a few variables, and that's the exposure and the orders, the amount of the exposure and the managing of the orders, and then outside of that, the managing of the emotions. And as long as you're focusing on what's in your control opposed to what's outside of your control, then these types of situations should be good learning opportunities. And if you're consistently finding yourself, just completely on the wrong sides of these very volatile moves that happen in crypto, then that's something that you need to take a look and ask yourself why that may be. All right, that's been plenty of talking for me. I'll take a quick look at the chat and we will call it a day. All right. Let's see here. ZMDMZ should have trusted your own intuit. Watch the last video. You didn't seem convinced. It almost seems like you wanted to get. Not sure I follow, but I was definitely thinking back to yesterday, and it had been a very long week, and I was gassed. I was absolutely gassed, and I just wasn't in my best frame of mind, and that was definitely something that I was considering as I was going through everything. And that's really the kind of part of the beauty of Bitcoin and trading, actively speculating in Bitcoin, is that you have to be on 100% of the time. Like if you're just off just for a couple hours, that could be all that it takes. If you just are, some days you're just kind of sluggish and your brain's not working like it does other days, and it can cause, some very significant mistakes. So those that are actively speculating in this space, I think it's important to understand how just a small lapse of judgment, just a very small lapse, could cause for some very big problems. And I think of it a lot like golf, in terms of golf is a game of misses. Golf is a game of mistakes. Ben Hogan said he only hit 2 perfect shots in his life. Every other one was a miss. And therefore, it's a game of how good are your misses. And I very much think that is the case with trading. Everybody has misses. Everybody has lapses of decision. Everybody has, times where they're just, not right in the zone, or maybe something pulls their attention away, so you're just not even available to really give it your full focus when you need to. Everybody under the sun is going to have misses, mistakes, lapses in judgment, things to learn from. And the question is how bad are your small and medium mistakes, and how bad are your big mistakes? For me, I would say, the small, medium order set on a really nice buy setup for me. And, that is definitely a mistake, but that's one where I'm missing out on unrealized profit, opposed to losing actual money. And that's where I really want to try to focus my mistakes on, is missing out on unrealized profit. Missing out on opportunity is what I mean to say. I said that wrong. Missing out on opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is what I want to have my mistakes be. So for example, if I am selling here and then we blow through and I don't even get to buy back, well, I made money on my sell and I missed out on the opportunity of not holding it. Well, that's a mistake, and it might even be a medium to big mistake depending on how much you miss out. But that's the type of mistake that will never make you go broke, just missing out on some opportunity cost. Whereas the type of mistake where you get over leveraged and there's a wick on ETH down to $700 in the blink of an eye, and nothing you could have ever really expected or imagined, and it wipes out your whole account, that's the type of mistake that is not acceptable. So at the end of the day, I think it's important to realize that trading is a game of mistakes, and that it is, to have a perfect trade. What is the perfect trade? No matter what, if you buy very near the bottom, sell very near the top, you always could have gone bigger. It's like, what is the perfect trade? Is there ever a perfect trade, or is every trade going to have a mistake somewhere, like it could have been better somehow? That is, I guess, how I kind of like to think about it, and we are, you know, basically professional mistake makers, and the level at which you are making mistakes will very much determine the level of profit that you're able to sustain or to pull out of the markets. Okay, let's see here. Mel, good to see you. Not quite sure. Saw's getting a few posts. It's with his name on them. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's alphanalysis. Let's go ahead and take a look. I think I actually forgot to post today's video in the forum. Oh, there's the photo finder. Let's go back to the forum. All right. Got any questions I can answer? All right. Well, that will conclude it for me today. I'll be back tomorrow, and hopefully kind of more around this time. These next few days are just going to be absolutely critical. Seeing that then this weekly close is going to be very important. So I think it's a very good time to be patient until you're seeing a really good spot. And if you are not, you know, very, this isn't the time to over leverage or over risk, even if you think you have a perfect spot. During this volatility, the market can move, you know, so quickly in both directions that it is going to be very much a time to just stay away unless you really feel very comfortable with what you're doing and the signals that you are getting. Definitely not a time to be trading on any sort of leverage at all, as we've been talking about over the last week, and on the Honest Analyst show, this is you know, a spot where a lot of money can be lost. And if you are going to focus on trying to protect yourself from, you know, these environments where a lot of money can be lost, that's how I think you can end up setting yourself on the you know, right sides of things where also a lot of money can be won. So thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to kind of get back into the groove of daily streams, and appreciate everybody for commenting, taking the time to thumbs up and comment, and we will be back at you tomorrow. Oh, yep, Storm UK 69. Mark joining tomorrow. I forgot to mention that. Mark Wood will be on the stream tomorrow, and that will be a lot of fun to dive into some charts with him, as he's always a guy who has plenty of charts to dive into. So don't want to miss out on tomorrow's stream. I think you guys will like it a lot. Cheers.